So hello everyone, continuing our theme with talking about the Spirit Enhancement and just in general the characters that you might have to really watch out about in Mirrors especially, and because I want to talk about all the characters at some point anyway, but probably more important to start out with the one that you really need to watch out for, and one of the ones that we're going to talk about today a little is Holy Alina. You might probably already know that she is probably the best forest unit in the entire game because she's a blast gorilla. That's basically it. She's the only forest blast gorilla, and therefore she's the best forest unit in the entire game. But more importantly, she is very much focused on attack. She has a lot of attack. That's actually an absurd amount of attack right there. Not so much in the defense department, but she actually still at least has some decent HP, so that's fine. But she will get attacked early on in Mirrors, which might not actually be that much of a problem, which we might see later why. More importantly though, let's quickly go over her connect. Gives a whole bunch of attack up because almost everyone has that, and it also applies curse and stun on attack with pretty decent chances. But of course all of these chances are a lot lower if the enemy, for example, has some form of status aim resistance, for example, also Madoka, probably the most important one, or if you are on some EX challenge quests. Enemies might even be immune to the really powerful effects like curse, for example, or bind. She doesn't have bind, but just in general, so that you know that. Now she has a Magia that actually gives enemies status aim resistance down. At Magia level 5, it's even 40% to all enemies for 3 turns, which is amazing. It also has a chance to dazzle, with dazzle being the strongest, probably, like in Mirrors, the strongest and best status aim that there is. In PvE is also really good, and it also gives a defense down to herself, which is rather interesting. But if the enemy gets dazzled, you're probably not gonna take too much damage anyway. Hopefully, if RNG is on your side, double does more of that. Thing is though, of course, because that is a Magia and she's a blast gorilla and doesn't have any other way of generating MP, she probably won't really use Magia unless you specifically play for that. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because you might think to yourself, well, what if the enemy does aim resistance up, we can just apply status aim resistance down from the Magia, right? But because she's a blast gorilla, because she doesn't get to Magia easily, or because it would take a long time, it's not really something that you can ever rely on as part of your strategy to have that on the enemy. Like I said, unless you're playing specifically a Magia team. But if you're playing a Magia team, just take other Magia characters and don't like bring some sort of blast character in there to somehow get them to Magia. It's usually better to just go full on Magia team if you're gonna do something like that. More importantly, that's basically the idea behind Alina. Is she blasts a lot. She has some status ailments on her connect. That's pretty good, but of course gets a bit ruined by status aim resistance or just immunities. However, we're here more specifically for her spirit enhancement because we need to figure out what makes her so special in PvP in Mirrors. So first off, she gets the regular 4 nodes that everyone gets. Then she gets crit, evade, anti-evade. Because she's an attack-focused character, a lot of attack-focused characters get something like these 3 nodes. Because she's a blaster, she gets 20% blast damage up, and you might know from the video, the last video I did about Cool Homura as well, where I talked about a lot of other characters, especially blasters, have more damage bonus as part of their spirit enhancement. We actually see that there is another part of damage up in here somewhere. I'm gonna get to it in just a bit, but first off, she has a 15% chance to poison on attack. Now I need to say something very quickly about this. I'm not 100% certain exactly how this works. If it's instead a 15% chance that when you attack, it applies or it tries to apply a poison at 100% chance, or if instead every single time you attack, and I'm doing this motion right here because it's actually the attack motion. I know she goes like brrr, then whenever you attack, it tries to apply a poison at 15%. Chance. The reason why I make up the distinction is because in the first case, status aim resistance down doesn't really do anything, but in the second case, status aim resistance down very much does something and makes it a lot more likely to apply poison. And I assume it's the latter, that the way this works, that status aim resistance down will indeed make it more likely to hit this poison. But if someone is a lot more sure about this, you can write that in the comments below. She also for some reason gets an MP gain up, but like 7.5% is not enough to make it that much easier for her to get to Magia. Like, this is not going to enable Magia strategies just because she has like 7% MP gain up. Not enough. More importantly though, she has a chance to anti-provoke. There's like barely any sources in the entire game that do that. You can click on this yourself. I'm going to do it right now, but there's barely any sources that do that. So I guess sometimes it's fun to have this. More importantly, She has 20% damage up versus enemies inflicted with status ailments. So basically, if you're attacking and the enemy has any sort of status ailment like a poison, a fog, a charm, a curse, anything like that, then this thing will activate and basically act as if you had a 20% damage up, which basically means that just passively she can have about 40% damage modifiers, which is pretty good, like between 20% blast damage up and the 20% damage up from up here. None of that, though, is what makes Holy Alina so good, especially in PvP, and the one thing that makes her so good is her active, which has a chance to poison every single enemy, 45%, which is, you know, pretty good, but if the enemy has a holy ultimate Madoka, it doesn't do that much, right? But it also gives status ailment resistance down 25% to all enemies, and that applies before the poison, and I tested it specifically. So that is really darn good. Now, especially, we're not just looking anymore at the enemy having an ultimate Madoka, because if the enemy has an ultimate Madoka, this debuff will sort of almost completely counteract the passive of ultimate Madoka. Now we actually need to take a look at what happens if the enemy doesn't have an ultimate Madoka or any other source of status ailment resistance, because now suddenly we have on every single enemy a 70% chance to poison them on turn 1. Poison only does 5% of an enemy's maximum health in damage each turn, and it only lasts for 1 turn, so it only does that once. However, here's the thing. First off, enemies that are afflicted with status ailments cannot evade. So this immediately counters every single evade on any enemy that it hits. Awesome. Also, enemies that are poisoned will of course count as having a status ailment affliction, which means Addict Killer comes into effect and you do bonus damage to them. Awesome. So not only do you immediately counteract every single evade on the enemy team with 70% chance that hits all of them, and also you get this Addict Killer, or at least you get, like, if the enemy has like 5 people on their team, maybe hit 4 of them, maybe hit 3 of them. Even so, you're probably gonna hit some guys, and those guys, you can just absolutely destroy them, because, I mean, you use the active first, and then you can take a look at, who do I hit? And then decide what sort of discs you want to use and how you want to rev up the enemy team. And this will be absurdly powerful against enemies where this hits on basically everyone. You just do a lot more damage, and the enemy can't evade, and I guess they also take 5% damage after the end of a turn. However, this is not where it ends. With just this also already makes Holy Alina pretty darn dangerous. But it goes way further than that, because once you give the enemy a 25% status ailment resistance down, suddenly this opens up the entire playing field for so much more. Let's take a look at just some of the characters that you could play, just some of them alongside Holy Alina, because this is where it gets rather interesting. Look at Ren, for example. What's her active? Chance to apply fog to every enemy, 40%. With this, 65% chance to fog every single enemy for 3 turns. Fog is just gonna make enemies miss a whole bunch of attacks, maybe. It's rather weak status effect, but still, it's another status ailment. If some of the enemies didn't get hit by the poison from Holy Alina, and they might still evade you, guess what? You have another chance of fogging them, and then they still can't evade if they get hit by that. Or if they get hit by both of these, they not only take more damage, but they also now have a chance to miss. What else do we have? Oh, look at that, we have Holy Mummy. She's not the other holy character. Look at that, she also has a chance to fog all enemies for 40%, which with Holy Alina is 65% chance. It gets even better, she also has Addict Killer. Holy Mummy also has the Addict Killer to do bonus damage against enemies inflicted with status ailments. And she also has a chance to bind on attack, which, if my earlier calculation was correct, will now be 40% chance on every single hit. And of course, Holy Alina with this will also have a 40% chance on every single hit to apply poison. Like I said, if what I said earlier was correct. It gets even better. Look at that. This is Haruka. She's only like a 4-star character level 80, but she has a chance to apply Charm to every single character at like 77% chance with the Holy Alina thing. Okay, that's good. Does it continue? Yes, it continues. We have Livia Medeiros, who is very hot, and also has a Curse Scream, chance to apply Curse, 37.5%, which with our thing is over 50%, well over 50%, like actually 62.5%, yeah, 62.5% against every single enemy, 62.5%. Damn. She also has a chance to curse on attack, which also goes up to 45% chance. I do need to mention that a lot of people might use Bible, although now less people use Bible because you have the Kazumi Memoria and the 5-star Kazumi Memoria that people just got by playing the Kazumi event. That one has a bigger damage bonus on it than Bible, so some people might switch out that for Bible, so Bible goes away. But even so, a lot of people still probably have Bible and are immune to the curse, but still, you now have so many more chances to apply all of these ailments just as active. Imagine a team of just like a 5-man team of all the characters I just mentioned. Enemies have a really high chance to be poisoned, fogged, charmed, cursed, and on every single attack you do, because look at that, Livia also has damage up against like Addict Killer, and like I said, the curse edge as well. Like every single attack that all of your characters do, not all of them, but most of your characters do, you can apply more status ailments. Enemies can't dodge because ailments make them unable to dodge. If the enemy has an ultimate Madoka, because status ailment resistance down kind of counters that, you do a lot more damage because a lot of the characters I just mentioned, they also have Addict Killer on them. It's like you stack your advantages really fucking high to such a degree. Like none of these by themselves will win you the game. Like cursing all enemies doesn't win you the game, fogging all enemies doesn't win you the game, not even close. But doing all of that at once and dealing bonus damage, that just gives you so many advantages that suddenly you will steamroll entire teams. And more importantly, if you play against a team that has Holy Alina on it, you really need to be careful that suddenly your entire team might be croaking in poisonous, foggy clouds and be unable to dodge, taking massive damage, and it kind of sucks. And this is what makes Alina so absolutely scary. It's not just Holy Alina herself that is scary, although being able to poison your entire team and then getting bonus damage on it and blasting your entire team down with the blast combo is also really fucking scary, but also just the fact that she can set up for so many other characters in the game with this status aim resistance down is absolutely absurd. Keep in mind that it only lasts for one turn, this status aim resistance down, but even so, you only need one turn for all of these actives and attacks to come in and basically destroy your entire enemy team. Damn, so that was a lot of stuff that was required to completely screw over your enemy team. And I guess, by the way, if you're playing a team like that, suddenly this Memoria is actually really fucking awesome, because it's basically a 35% damage up, which is even better than the Kazumi Memoria that people just got, which is pretty darn awesome. And a lot of Holy Alinas do play something like this, especially if you have a team with, for example, Ren, with Haruka, Holy Mami, etc., all of these on them, and you can basically guarantee that an enemy is going to have at least one status ailment on them. It's basically a 35% damage up with stance on art, which is pretty darn awesome. So, okay, like I said though, that was a lot of stuff to make sure that the enemy team sort of falters over 1 or 2 turns and gives you a lot of advantages, but the enemy can still sort of fight back. Why not just have some sort of character, similarly to Kyoko, who just snaps their fingers and the entire team just explodes immediately. Turn 1, they can't do anything about it. So let's cut all the crap, let's just jump right ahead to Yozuru, who has a mole on her thigh, but more importantly, Yozuru, guy or girl, I don't even know, is a blast gorilla who is probably one of the, if not the strongest blast gorilla in the entire game. And that's not even some sort of me trying to meme on it or making some exaggeration, but she is really darn broken. So let's quickly go over Yozuru and try to talk about what makes it so that she's so broken. Is it her element because she's void type? Not really. The thing is, yeah, you don't have any element that is strong against you, and you don't have an element that you're weak to. But to be honest, I'd much rather, like, if we're just talking about power level, I think it would still be better if she was either light or dark. First off, light or dark get to stand on specific tiles, like for example on dark, not dark Tertia, but dark element delta, or light element delta, which gives them a lot more bonus damage than other old tiles that Yozuru might have to stand on instead. So that already you would be getting more damage just from being able to stand on those tiles as a dark or light. And secondly, you don't have this you don't have these enemy characters that could deal bonus damage to you, but you also don't have enemies that you can deal bonus damage to, which is more preferable if you're playing with a team or just with a character that is supposed to win on turn 1. It's better if there are enemies that you can deal bonus damage to, so that actually makes it that so Void is definitely not the reason why she's really good, because I know a lot of people have mentioned this. Why is Yozuru so good? Well, she's a Void type blast gorilla. No, Void actually makes her worse than if she was light or dark type. It makes her worse than if she was light or dark type, and to keep mentioning this because people falsely assume that. She also has low defense, or somewhat low defense, so if the enemy actually does get to attack, you'll die really fast, especially if you're on a team with multiple characters. Yozuru might get targeted really early, unless of course the enemy has some other character that has lower defense or has some elemental advantage against another one of your characters. But if none of that is active, you probably get targeted rather early with Yozuru and die because of that. That is also not why she's really good. She does have decently high attack, but it's not even as high as Holy Alina. Like Holy Alina is like 500 attack more. Some other characters have more attack as well, so her attack also isn't so high that it would be overpowered. Her SE, or not her SE, but she gets like 32,000 HP, which is fine, but nothing overpowered. Look at her connect, gives 40% damage up, which in most cases is actually preferable to attack up. And I know a lot of people might be wondering, but you keep saying that attack up is better than damage up. So why are you suddenly saying something different? Well, it's because almost every single connect in the entire game gives attack up, that you usually have way too much attack up, and you kind of need some sort of source for damage up somewhere. So being able to get it on a connect is actually quite alright. So I actually do prefer damage ups on connects, just because I usually just have already way too much attack. It removes status ailments, which is, it's fine, whatever, it doesn't matter too much, and it gives chance to chase. But isn't this like Ren, where you give chase to the character you connect with, and then you have to do a whole bunch of other stuff to make sure you can actually get that character to chase? No, it doesn't say this here, but this gives chase to Yozuru. So if you connect with someone else, Yozuru gets chase and chases on every single hit. That is actually really darn awesome and would already make her pretty strong. But so far, Yozuru is just pretty strong, okay? So far she's just a pretty strong character. Let's keep going. She's a Blast Gorilla, so she's not going to get too much to Magia, but it's a single target Magia that could stun and at least gives her some attack up and remove debuffs, which is fine, but nothing game breaking. This is just fine, but nothing too amazing. So far, okay, maybe the Spirit Enhancement. Maybe the Spirit Enhancement is so good that she becomes overpowered. Let's take a look. Okay, so we get the first 4 notes that everyone gets. Who cares? She's got crit, anti-evade, evade. Basically the same thing that almost anyone else gets who is an attack-focused character. We already know that. For some reason she gets MP gain up 10%, but still, like I said, it's still not enough to make her Magia viable, so we don't care about that either. She also gets Addict, Killer, and Chance of Poison on attacks, which is good, but without someone like Holy Alina to push down the enemy stats in resistance, this won't do much. So once again, this is most like a sort of side thing that we can almost completely ignore. It doesn't really matter too much. Then we look at what is left, and we see 2 blast damage up notes for about 33% blast up, 33% blast up. That's really good, right? And look at the active. All enemies get defense down 35% for 1 turn. Damn, that's good, right? Yeah, it is really good. That's actually a pretty good active Memoria, especially if you're trying to go for this 1 turn burst. But the thing is, even looking at all of that, even looking at all of what we just saw, this just makes Yozuru a pretty good, pretty strong character. But still not the number 1. With everything we've seen so far, he's still not the number 1 character. And some people might be wondering, but we've just went over every single thing she has. Her element, her discs, her attack stats, her Spirit Enhancement, Connect Magia. We've gone over everything she has. How is there still something missing? Because it can't be the personal, right? This is the most powerful Memoria in the entire fucking game, and it's so incredibly goddamn broken that I don't even know how they put it into the game. This Memoria is stronger than most active Memoria. Even some of the strongest 4-star active Memoria aren't as good as this on the turn that you activate it. And guess what? It's a passive. It gives 35% attack up. You know what? Let me just look some stuff up. I can look up friends, for example. Okay, I made friends. We're also going to look up the Kazumi memo, which is entwined paths, I think it is, walking entwined paths. We're also going to look up towards the light, towards blast, yeah, towards the light. The reason I'm going to look up all of this up is because you're going to look at some stuff. So this thing, 35% blast damage up passively. Okay, that's a 4-star Memoria. 4-star Memoria, 35% blast damage up. Let me look at Special Seed. There it is. 40% blast damage up, okay? 40% blast damage up. This is one of the best Memoria in the entire game currently. 40% blast damage up passively. Amazing. I made friends. 20% attack up. Awesome. Amazing. Cool stuff. Walking entwined path. 30% damage increase. Awesome. Really good numbers right there. These are some really awesome. Now, if you look at Sword, it's like like non-MLB saw this 35% attack up at maximum health, but only at maximum health. And this is also one of the strongest Memoria in the entire game. So are we seeing this kind of idea here that like somewhere between 20-25%, a bit higher than that, that is what you usually get from 4-star, really awesome, top tier, best Memoria in the game. And if you're looking at damage-wise, like damage effect up, what we're seeing is somewhere between 30-40%, like 30-40% is what really powerful 4-star Memoria have in the entire game, and they always have like just one of these and then maybe some other effect. Just one of these. We have 35% attack up and 60% blast damage up, which is more than either of these. It has more attack up on it than the best attack Memoria in the entire game have, and at the same time, it has more blast damage up on it than the best blast Memoria in the entire game by a long shot, and it's fucking passive.
How the fuck did they make this Memoria and think it was alright to have this Memoria in the game?
If you still got from your anniversary, like if you have Yozuru and from your anniversary, you still have the 3-star limit breaker cores that you can use to limit break a Memoria. And you have a Yozuru, use them on this, and I mean, even without limit break, even if not a max limit break, it already has like 30, 40, 55, which is absolutely absurd. I have a video right here. It shows Yozuru completely destroying an entire team without critical hits. There might have been some critical hits in there, I don't know, but even without critical hits, it like completely destroys an entire team because the Tristan is actually fucking absurd. This is kind of absurd. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you guys next time.